Hey roamers, we're here exploring Capitan, New Mexico.
Where in 1950 a huge fire burned this whole area and a tiny little bear was rescued, brought back to life, and named Smokey.
And just down the road, we'll step back even further in time to explore Lincoln, where Billy the Kid made his mark during the legendary Lincoln County War.
We're going to show you all that and more on this episode of Roaming with Rosie. So I'm standing here with Smokey, and his arm goes up and down, and he's got one finger out. I'm going to pull it, and let's see what happens.
Today, we're exploring a truly unique destination, the Smokey Bear Historical Park in Capitan, New Mexico, a small mountain town nestled in the Sacramento Mountains of Lincoln County. If you're traveling through south central New Mexico, you'll find Capitan roughly 100 miles west of Roswell, famous for its UFO legacy. But Capitan has its own remarkable story to tell. So we're here at Smokey Bear Historical Park in Capitan, New Mexico. This is an area of Capitan that had a horrible fire in 1950. And in that fire, a lot of wildlife was killed, including a mama bear. Her baby was rescued and the baby was brought back here to be nursed back to health. Game Warden Ray Bell flew him to the veterinary hospital in Santa Fe. After that, he flew the cub home, literally, where he and his family continued to care for him during his recovery. Bell described the little bear as a mite domineering, with the other family pets and somewhat of a ham as well. They soon realized that they had something, a real bear who could become the living symbol of the character they've been promoting for 6 years. Smokey Bear was created in 1944, 6 years before, to help bring attention during the war effort so that forests wouldn't burn, because we needed the lumber for the war effort. And that's kind of how that started, and it became a character, and they enlisted families and children in protecting forests. But when they found this little bear, they named him Smokey. He was nursed back to health, and he got to go to the zoo in Washington, D.C. and live 26 years, I believe. And people came from all over the world to see Smokey Bear, this little bear that grew up into a giant bear that didn't look like a cute little bear. We got to live there and have so many people come and learn about the effort of putting out forest fires. And then after he passed, I think in 1976, he was shipped back here to Capitan, New Mexico, and this is his final resting place. So we'll come across in this garden that we're in here at the historical park, we will come across his final resting place. So now there were two Smokey Bears, and understanding the difference makes this place all the more special. When Smokey the actual bear died in 1976, he was returned home and laid to rest here in Capitan, his hometown. They established the historical park to honor Capitan's favorite son. Since 1992, the park has been operated by the New Mexico Forestry Division. The park is a true celebration of both Smokies, the actual bear and the legacy of Smokey the Bear's fire prevention. In the visitor center, there's a theater with a film documenting the story and interviews with Ray Bell about the rescue and rehab.
Smokey first came to life on the printed page. After considering a number of animals to represent the program, the Cooperative Forest Fire Prevention Committee agreed to use a bear.
At least now the little fella had a chance.
Judy was wanting to take him home, so we did. And Ruth sent me to the store to get pablum, honey, and milk, and mixed up a concoction of baby food and poked it down his throat. Good thing he wasn't a big bear. She stick her finger down his throat, and she set the alarm clock for every 2 hours.
When you first enter the historical park, you go through the visitor center. So there's a whole lot to see in there. This is great for kids as well. There's so much interactive stuff for kids and a lot of ways to learn how to prevent forest fires, what to worry about. And us as campers and, all the people that watch this that are campers, even in Quartzsite, we have fires all the time, campfires, and we need to be aware of what can happen. Outside are more exhibits about vegetative life zones in New Mexico. We were here in late spring and the weather was warm and windy. Be aware that it does snow here at this elevation. This is Smokey the Bear's final resting place. He died peacefully in his sleep, so they say, at the ripe old age of 26. It says here that's equivalent to being 70 in human years, which was the full-fledged retirement age for federal employees. So he became an officially retired bear. He died peacefully in his sleep of old age in our nation's capital, November 9th, 1976 of our nation's bicentennial year. And they wanted to return him to his home. We are here on a very windy day. In fact, it's called fire weather. It's red flag warnings, fire weather, which is pretty scary out here in the forest, where there has been very little rain or snow this past year in New Mexico. So there's a lot of concern for going into this summer about man-made fires and lightning-caused fires. There's also a fallen firefighter memorial here that honors more than 30 wildland firefighters who've lost their lives fighting wildfires in New Mexico. There's also a YouTube video created by the chaplain for the Sandoval County Fire Department, and I'll put a link here and in this video's description if you want to watch it. We're leaving the park. Is he just mad that we're leaving? Or is that a desperate plea to prevent forest fires? Less than 13 miles away is the town of Lincoln, and you've probably heard of it. Why do I say that? This is where many movies from the 50s up to 1999 took place around the Lincoln County Wars, and most were various versions of the story of Billy the Kid and Sheriff Pat Garrett. The entire town of Lincoln is a National Historic Landmark, offering visitors a chance to walk through history with preserved buildings like the Courthouse, Tunstall Store, and other structures from the 1870s and 1880s. The population of this town is really small, with a population of just 189 people as of the 2010 census. If you want to visit, be sure to check their website for hours and other information. It's operated by volunteers, and the hours are limited. We didn't check first. The park and buildings are only open 10 to 4, Thursday through Monday. We arrived on Monday at 3 o'clock and assumed they would close at 5. So we only had an hour to explore, but we made the best of it. The visitor center and at least 5 of the 7 museum buildings are open to the public, depending on the season, and most are wheelchair accessible. Since we didn't know when we would be back this way again, we paid our $7 entry at the Anderson Freeman Museum and Visitor Center and moved fast to be able to see as much as possible. And we succeeded. Here's what we saw and learned. Although the Visitor Center looks like the other buildings on the street, it actually was built relatively recently, 1977, and it's now owned and operated by the New Mexico Department of Cultural Affairs. Inside, the Voices of Lincoln exhibit gave us a quick history of Lincoln from prehistoric times until the end of the Lincoln County War. The area where Lincoln sits, long before the infamous Billy the Kid and those Wild West stories, was home to indigenous tribes. First the Mogollon, followed by the Piros, and later the Mescalero Apache, of which 4,000 members reside in the nearby reservation today and another several thousand in the area. In the 1850s, Spanish-speaking native New Mexican settlers from the upper Rio Grande began arriving and named their new home La Placito del Rio Bonito, the place by their pretty river. In 1869, just 4 years after the end of the Civil War, the county and town were renamed for the late President Abraham Lincoln. Even before that famous young teenager showed up, Washington, D.C. referred to its main street as the most dangerous street in America. There's short films shown in the museum's theater, which make you feel like you've stepped into an old-time stage show, and an area where kids can dress up and imagine what it was like in the 1800s Wild West. With an eye on the time, we hustled down to the other end of the street to the old Lincoln County Courthouse, where inside you can follow this building's historic events as a store, residence, Masonic Lodge, courthouse and jail, and even a school. This historic two-story stuccoed adobe structure was built in 1874. In 1881, the building became the Lincoln County Courthouse and served as such until 1913, when the new courthouse at Carrizozo was completed. Is this the original floor?
Yes, it is.
So let's stay on the plywood so we don't fall through the floor. So around 5 p.m. on Thursday, April 28, 1881, Billy the Kid made his now infamous escape from this building. So apparently this was a totally lawless place. But all these people were supposed to be trying to keep the law, and they did not survive. This old courthouse is widely considered to be haunted, with tales of ghostly figures, unexplained noises like voices and doorbells, and alleged paranormal activity linked to its violent history, especially involving Billy the Kid, making it a popular spot for ghost hunters and paranormal investigations. Looking out this second floor window, you can see this plaque. Billy had asked to go to the privy, and as soon as he and the guard exited the building and headed to the outhouse, Billy shot the guard and killed him. Hearing the shot, the second guard rushed back. Billy, armed with a shotgun from the courthouse office, waited at the window and yelled, "Look up, old boy, and see what you get," and shot Ollinger dead with both barrels as he looked up. In 1938, the state purchased the abandoned structure and began extensive restoration. The courthouse began its new life as a museum in July of 1939. This building is listed both on the National Historic Register and the New Mexico Register of Cultural Properties. Crossing the street again, the Tunstall Store's original 19th century merchandise is on display. Built in the summer of 1877 by young Englishman John H. Tunstall and his partners Alexander McSween and John Chisum. And if that name sounds familiar, John Wayne played the famous cattle baron John Chisum in the 1970 Western Chisum. The role showcased his commanding presence as he defended his land and empire during the historical Lincoln County War right here.
Okay, the building was built in 1877, and it was still an operating store up until 1957. When the state acquired it, they came in and put period correct stuff back in here. So everything in here would have been sold between the 1880s and the 1900s. So everything in here would have been sold in that time period. Now, when you look out the back window just to the right, there's going to be two crosses out there, and that's Tunstall and McSwain's burial site. Now, when you all go into this back room over here to the right, there's going to be a cutout in the floor, and that's where McSwain hid Billy the Kid after he shot Sheriff Brady across the street. See, it wasn't just Billy that shot him, it was the whole gang, because he wound up with 9 holes in him, so. Six shooter don't put 9 holes in you, so. Right. After Billy shot Brady, or the whole bunch shot Brady, Billy was going across the street to get his rifle back that Brady had taken off him. And that rifle was given to him by Tunstall and McSwain. So he was going to get it back, got wounded, got shot in the leg. He run in here, McSwain hit him out up under the floor in there, and everybody else run out the back door. So when the deputies came in, nobody in the store, back door standing wide open, so they thought even Billy went out.
Right.
So they go on the chase, and the whole time he was up under the floor in there. There's a display case in there, it's got 3 cans in it, so if the stories are true, he ate out of them cans.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
This building housed a store, Alexander McSween's law office, the offices of the Bank of Lincoln, and the living quarters for John Tunstall. The beautiful San Juan Mission Church is also open to the public, and it's still used for special services today. Built in 1887, under the guidance of Father John Marie Garnier, the parishioners built this church, the largest church in Lincoln County at that time, a little over 3,000 square feet. The church is built from adobes made on site and vias hauled in from the Capitan Mountains. In 1973, The remaining resident parishioners recommended the church be sold to the state of New Mexico in order to protect it from further decay. The state restored the building and opened it to the public in 1984. So we got here at the Lincoln Historical Site just an hour before they close. They're closed on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, and they're only open from 9 to 4 on the other days. We're only out here for Monday afternoon and Tuesday and Wednesday. So we went ahead and went in an hour before they close, not realizing it's not just one location. It's this whole town here. And you can go in various buildings. There's a lot of history. There's a lot of artifacts. And there's volunteers in some of them to answer questions. So I think it was worth it, even though we only got an hour, $7 to go in, but still we got to go into four out of, I think, 6 buildings. And then there's a whole bunch of buildings here. Some of them are private residences that we can walk by, and it tells a story. So here's one thing right here. You can see what this is. It looks like some kind of a water tower, but we will see what it really is. The Torian, a defensive tower, continues to stand watch in the middle of the town. It's one of the first structures built shortly after New Mexico became a U.S. territory. The original structure included an 8-foot wall around the tower and provided sanctuary from raiding Apaches. It also was a great vantage point from which to rain bullets down on the McQueen house during that 5-day battle of the Lincoln County War. Lincoln, New Mexico will remain the heart of the Billy the Kid legend. Well over 1,000 books have been written about this teenager. Born Henry McCarty and later known as William H. Bonney, his young life became an enduring legend in the American West. His story never quite closes. Competing testimonies, missing records, and the real possibility that Pat Garrett shot the wrong man and Billy went on to live a full life in Texas. We've shared parts of his story in our episodes about New Mexico's Silver City on the west side of New Mexico and Mesilla and Las Cruces, where he was convicted of killing Sheriff Brady, brought back to Lincoln, and then escaped. If your visit to New Mexico includes true Wild West adventure and famous figures in American history, then visiting Lincoln County is a worthwhile stop for you. Our base camp for visiting these 2 places in this episode and our next episode was the stunning Valley of Fires National Recreation Area. We had a beautiful rim view campsite to the lava fields with hookups, and we paid just $12.50 per night for the site. We shared all the details of this campground in our last episode. There's a link and QR code here or in this video's description. And on that next travel episode, we'll go back in history again at the Three River Petroglyph site. A short trail takes you close to many of more than 21,000 petroglyphs of birds, humans, animals, fish, insects, and plants, as well as numerous geometric and abstract designs.
We really hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, we'd really appreciate it if you'd share it with your friends and family on social media. And if you're not yet a subscriber, go ahead and hit that subscribe button.
And ring that little bell, because that way you'll be notified each time we upload new content.
And make sure to leave a comment, that way you could be part of the conversation.
Until next time,
We'll see ya.
That's a wrap, roamers. If these adventures and tips are keeping you inspired, subscribe and watch another one. Your next RV tip or destination is just a click away.